The story begins by explaining what an undead is. They are those who cannot die, not even after death. For mortals who have escaped the cycle of life and death, mastering this dimension was not so difficult, and obtaining the dimension called Earth also seemed to be only a matter of time, or so the undead thought. How did he do it? How is a mere human like him still alive? Who knows, right? Maybe it's thanks to the fact that he's tougher. Thanks to you guys. And then Kang Hyun threw a punch that completely destroyed the undead in front of him. But now we've gone back 2 years. I really can't deal with you, can I? I let you live here because you said you were going to look for a job, but all you do all day is drink and gamble. If you carry on like this, I'm going to send you back to mom and dad. No, I just can't trust our parents, you know? But you can do that to your little sister, can't you? It's New Year's tomorrow. Get a part-time job or something. I don't know. Yeah, I'll do it tomorrow, because my head is spinning. Kang Hyun went to his room while Ian shouted after him. Kang Hyun, you're pathetic. Why are you living like this? The only thing he's done since he got here is an internship at a big company. Maybe he should get a job stacking boxes or something. Oh, I think I left my game open on the PC. Everything would be so much better if life was one big video game, wouldn't it? Then he could get some decent power or money, or be a warrior, a wizard. Then Kang Hyun collapsed on the bed. But suddenly, everyone received the same message from a system. Connection to the Haken dimension. Earth defense. System activated. Haken dimension temporarily blocked. Tutorial will not begin on Earth until... Everything began to shake, and suddenly he was in a completely white space. What's that? A system screen in front of me? And on that screen was written, time until complete connection to the Haken dimension. 4 years, 364 days, 23 hours, 59 minutes. Welcome, Kang Hyun. The tutorial has 8 stages. Death in this place is not connected to reality. You can't give up halfway through. If you fail, there is no other try. Another screen appeared, stating, when you complete the tutorial, you will receive a reward along with the awakening. That's just a gaming addict's nightmare. Mom, Dad, I'm sorry. I'm going to work. Ian, sorry. Sister, I'm going to work. But then again, what if it's a dream? Maybe it's a sign from God telling me to try one last time. And Kang Hyun acquired the mental state of just one more game, entering the first level. May your courage save the earth. Looking at this, he thought, save what? And the system kept popping up. First level, what you fear most. Prove your courage. Conditions, reach the end of the bridge. Failure condition, death. Where is this bridge? Then he looked a little further and saw fire, a lot of fire. Before he knew it, he was in a completely different setting with several people, several bridges, and lava everywhere. What's that? It's very hot in here. Who are those people? What's going on? A few minutes ago, I was definitely at home. If this is a dream, wow, it's incredibly strange here. Until someone called Kang Hyun's name. When he looked, it was Ian. Why are you appearing in my dream right on New Year's Eve? Just you? What bad luck. That's exactly what I'm wondering. Is this really a dream? Suddenly, something made Kang Hyun think about saving the earth. Ian, mind your own business. Don't act like it's your dream. It's my dream that's important now. If it really were a dream, our conversation wouldn't be so natural. Have you ever thought about that? Not at all. Our brains are designed for this kind of thing, you know? They say you feel pain in reality, but you don't feel pain in dreams. For example, seeing all this lava here, I thought I was going to piss myself, but my blanket is dry. It's so easy for you to say that kind of shameful thing in front of your sister. Anyway, I'm going to get out of this dream now. Huh? Going where? That message from before said you had to cross the bridge, didn't it? So I'm going across because this is my dream, right? An NPC like you won't understand. Who's an NPC here? I saw that too. And what are you going to do if you fall? What do you mean you're stupid? It's a dream. If I die in the dream, I'll wake up until someone above them fell into the lava. Kang Hyun just watched the person fall until all that was left was a little scorched hand asking for help in its last breaths. Seeing this, they both thought that maybe it wasn't a dream. What do you think now? Huh? That sound of screaming, torture, and a lot of pain. I don't know. I don't think I feel anything. Only he said it trembling, and obviously Ian realized it was a lie. Oh, don't be ridiculous. If we crawl, the risk will be less than if we walk. It's true. Not that I'm scared, of course, but it's true. And Ian thought, he doesn't take anything seriously, does he? As time goes by, people move forward on their respective bridges, while Kang Hyun and his sister, Ian, continue to crawl. Hey, what do you think of this situation? Do you have any hunches? Like a lucid nightmare? Oh, you still think it's a dream? Honestly, it's not a dream. Do you really think dreams are that lucid? There's definitely something going on. I think that if I die here, I'll die in real life too. I'm trying to forget all this, but you keep reminding me. Now I can't go any further. I'm scared. Ian thinks, how can I have an older brother with so little confidence? But Kang Hyun throws himself onto the bridge. Let me rest a bit, at least. I'm shaking all over. I can't crawl properly. Look, I don't think this is the best place to rest, you know? But who knows? It could just be a dream, right? Suddenly, a system screen interrupts what he was saying and appears in front of everyone. It reads, a lot of time has passed since the beginning of this tutorial. The difficulty has increased. What is it this time? Everything starts to shake and everyone feels the ground shake. Suddenly, the bridge behind Kang Hyun starts to break. The bridge they've already passed behind them is collapsing and everyone starts running desperately. Yeah, I don't think we have time to stand around. Ian runs off. Hey, wait for me. Now the two of them are running with the bridge crumbling behind them. As he runs desperately, Kang Hyun tries to calm himself down. The width of the bridge isn't that narrow. As long as I don't trip or fall, I can make it to the end. Just look at the bridge. Look at the bridge. He and Ian run with all their might until Kang Hyun sees something ahead. That's it. I'm coming. I'm coming. It's almost over. Suddenly, he realizes that the rocks above Ian are about to fall, but it's too late for her to react. Without hesitation, Kang Hyun jumps from his bridge onto hers, pushing her out of harm's way. The entire bridge breaks behind them, but they both manage to make it to the other side. A few seconds later, there was nothing behind them but rubble falling into the lava. The system appears for everyone, informing them that they have evolved to level 1 and that the temporary awakening has been completed. As a reward for completing the stage, you will be officially awakened at the end of this tutorial. Oh my god, I can't even lift a finger. What do you mean, temporarily awakened? Tutorial? I still don't understand what it's all about. Oh, you're not even going to say, thank you, to the person who saved your life? Oh really, thanks. Suddenly, a status screen appeared in front of Ian. Huh? Strength? Agility? Kang Hyun thinks, what? A status screen? I want to see it too. I want to see it. He tries to raise his head with difficulty, but when he finally goes to see his statuses, he wakes up. You look around and think, it was all a dream, right? But soon afterwards, he saw several messages and posts on the internet about the same dream that everyone had. Over time, people began to realize that, well, it wasn't just a dream. Even news reports began to appear about the phenomenon, and the time remaining until the full connection with the Haken dimension continued to tick down. In the morning, when Kang Hyun and Ian wake up, they both start shouting around the house. You were in my dream. You were in mine too. We almost fell into the lava. I don't think it was a dream. More importantly, the status screen. What do you mean the most important thing is the status screen? Let me tell you, you're the one interrupting me. They both stop to breathe and suddenly their bellies rumble at the same time. Can we eat before we discuss this? Of course. While they're having breakfast, they look on the internet and realize that the topics on the subject are really trending. It seems to have happened to a lot of people. Yeah, I don't think it was a dream. And it didn't just happen here, it happened all over the world. But, I don't know, I thought that dying in a dream didn't affect reality. It says here that some people who fell didn't even come out with injuries. But it was so vivid. I felt that if I fell into that lava, I would definitely feel pain. After that scream, I was traumatized. So, is it really all right for us to stop for breakfast like this? I mean, while the chaos is going on outside? Well, there's nothing we can do right on an empty stomach, is there? Yeah, I guess so, replies Kang Hyun as he looks out of the window. What's wrong? Are you gonna throw yourself in there too? Asks Ian. When they look outside, they see chaos taking over the city. People believe it's the apocalypse. They're stockpiling food, fighting over supplies, holding protests, and some are even looting stores, claiming it's the last judgment or the coming of Jesus. Kang Hyun and Ian observe all this after having breakfast. I don't think we need to work today, do we? Absolutely. Going out now will only get us hurt, for sure. Oh, you remember anything about a Haken dimension or anything? You didn't look at your status window properly. Did you? At least those crazy messages said we'd be able to see the time left to become awakened. Kang Hyun, distracted, only thinks that he really wanted to see his status window. Whatever it is, we still have 5 years. Well, it's already chaotic now. I wonder if we can prepare for this situation for 5 years. I think things will calm down a bit soon though, so we'd better stay at home for now, right? Ian looks at him and thinks, what happened that this bastard is suddenly talking sense? It is explained that, despite the chaos in the morning, nothing more significant happened for the rest of the day. In the evening, most citizens returned to their daily lives, and thanks to this, Korea regained stability in just one day. And so the first day came to an end, with Kang Hyun taking a glorious nap, until a system message appears, welcome, Kang Hyun, to the tutorial. Would you like some basic instruction on the interface? No. Take me to the status window, please. Kang Hyun's status sheet appears. Xenotation spot name, Kang Hyun. Xenotation spot title none. Xenotation spot level 1. Xenotation spot strength 8. Xenotation spot agility 9. Xenotation spot stamina 8. Xenotation spot magic power 14. Xenotation spot additional statistics 1. Xenotation spot unique skill resurrection. Xenotation spot skills and talents none. Is this good? I don't have anything to compare it to in order to know if this is any good, but my magic power is pretty high, isn't it? Am I really going to use it for anything? Looks like there's a cool word in my system. He talks about the skill, resurrection. Resurrection, that sounds like a pretty overpowered skill. Kang Hyun's resurrection ability is described. Xenotation spot resurrection. You are reborn 24 hours after your death. You can revive as many times as necessary until the earth comes out of this crisis. If the resurrection doesn't have a specific location, it will take place in the last place you slept. Penalty. You will lose 1 level and 50% of your skills for 1 day. The tutorial does not apply a resurrection penalty. That's incredible. Of course, that's not all my life was going to be. The system asks, would you like to enter the second stage? Of course I would. It doesn't matter if my statuses are high or low. Anything, I can increase them with my level. With the miracle of resurrection, is there anything I can't do? It's explained that, up until this point, Kang Hyun had been quite enthusiastic about his resurrection ability, but he hadn't imagined what was to come. The scene changes to show a bloody mass and a creature that appeared to be a goblin, very ugly and screaming. Kang Hyun lunges at it, trying to hit the goblin with the mass, but the creature dodges. 2 system messages appear. Xenotation spot second phase. Defeat the enemies and prove your skills. Kang Hyun goes all out with the next attack, and when he finally hits the creature, he thinks, from the beginning, I thought the second phase could be a fight, because it really is like a game here. He finally manages to kill the goblin. I managed to kill it using my mass, giving it a surprise attack, but the sensation of killing a living being makes my whole body tingle. I've just killed something. Oh shit, all this blood. I feel like throwing up, and I only won because it was a goblin. If I hadn't surprised him, I would have ended up like he is now. Kang Hyun turns the corner and sees another goblin staring at him. He is startled, but realizes that the goblin wasn't staring at him, but at the body of the other goblin, which makes him much angrier. The system introduces the new enemy as the Goblin Militia. Shit, there were 2 of them from the start. The goblin wasn't supposed to be easy for beginners. This goblin is much bigger than the other one. Kang Hyun looks at the sword the goblin is holding. My god, if I get hit by that, I'm not just going to get tetanus. The goblin starts to scream, and as well as being more powerful, he's much uglier. Mercy. The goblin's blow to Kang Hyun is so strong that he recoils, almost dropping the weapon he was holding. Damn, my body is chronically short of exercise because of my long-term unemployment. And to top it off, I've taken a pastry I picked out at the beginning of the tutorial, and it's only 70 centimeters long. This leaves him very vulnerable and susceptible to close-range attacks. The goblin simply disarms Kang Hyun easily. There's no way I can beat a 1-meter sword. He's hit over and over again by that sword, but he's not dead yet. How did I end up like this? He was being dragged somewhere. Shit, he didn't kill me. I won't wake up if he doesn't kill me. Someone save me. How much blood is in the human body? I didn't realize it until I confirmed that it was my own blood. The slow approach of death, the agony I endured for hours and hours until my breathing finally ceased, was merciless torture by 4 goblins. The next day, Ayan wakes up to the sound of her brother screaming, "Oh my god, what's that noise first thing in the morning?" But when she looks at Kang Hyun, she realizes that he's traumatized. Goblins, 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 no, I'm scared. So you died of a hemorrhage, is that it? They pulled out my fingernails, then my toenails, then they crushed my fingers, and, as if that wasn't enough, they started pulling out my teeth. Stop, stop, I died too. But not like that. Anyway, is that why you're crying? You'd understand me if you'd been through it too. Even Jesus, in that situation, would cry for his mother. Yeah, I'm sorry, but you didn't have to go to hospital, did you? Huh? What do you mean, hospital? It seems that the number of patients in the psychiatric department has doubled in the last 2 days. I guess a lot of people have been through it. I don't think so. Maybe it's good news for those who died. At least the tutorial is over. The people who died in the first phase didn't dream of being in this second one. I'm relieved to hear that. At least tonight I'll sleep peacefully. But when Kang Hyun goes to sleep, it's not quite like that. Welcome to the tutorial, Kang Hyun. It looks like there was a mistake in your second stage. We're moving you there again. May your courage save the earth. Kang Hyun, staring at the system screen, was in disbelief. He was starting the second stage of the tutorial again. What kind of shit is that? Fuck you, you fucking system, he shouts, letting out a string of curses as the system informs him that he won't receive a penalty for dying and resurrecting in the tutorial. And there was Kang Hyun, leaning inside a cave. I fainted, fell asleep, then fainted again for several hours. I thought I would finally wake up from this dream in my bed. But that didn't happen. I guess there's no escape from here, is there? Kang Hyun is now behind the doors before starting the tutorial again. The weapon I chose last time was the noodle. I took it because it seemed to have great destructive power, but the combat was extremely scary. Maybe a crossbow or a spear would be better. That way I can get more range than with a sword. In the next scene, he's already inside, ready to face the goblins again. Do I get to show off the skills I picked up in the Korean army this time? But when Kang Hyun shoots, he misses and only grazes the ground. This only makes the goblin that much angrier. Damn, there's not much I can do with a weapon I'm using for the first time, is there? He lunges forward with the spear, and the big goblin can't even keep up with Kang Hyun's speed. He quickly reaches the smaller goblin and impales him with the spear. That worked. One down, now the other. But when he tries to pull the spear, it doesn't come out of the corpse. Shit, the spear won't come out. The larger goblin was already preparing an attack that could split Kang Hyun in half. And then he woke up in the middle of the night. What the fuck? At least I died once. There was no torture. The same system screens appear again. Yeah. Save the earth, my ass. Tutorial 2 Round 3. Would a two-handed sword be better, or should I use the spear again? No. Today I'm going with a sword. I've been watching tutorials on how to use a sword all day. Alright, let's go. Here I am, you bloody bastards. In the next scene, Kang Hyun is already dead again and wakes up in his bed. Shit, there's too much goblin in me. I'm going crazy. What am I going to do? Target practice with them. Meanwhile, Ayan, his sister, was getting more and more worried about his mental state. When the system messages appear again, Kang Hyun vents his frustration. Fuck you with that message. Tutorial 2 Round 4. I was wielding my sword without aiming properly because, according to the status window, this mode is the default. The system screen appeared, informing him that his stamina had gone up because he had been doing various exercises. Did I really have to swing my sword for 8 hours to level up? He checks his status window again and sees that he now has Xenotation Spot Strength 8, Xenotation Spot Agility 19, Xenotation Spot Stamina 8, Xenotation Spot Magic 14, Xenotation Spot Additional Statistics 1. What? Additional statistics? Oh yes, of course. I got a point after clearing the first stage and ended up forgetting it. Well, I've never been good at remembering things anyway. I'll take that point and put it towards strength. With a total of 2 evolved statuses, Kang Hyun sets out for revenge. But he was too exhausted from swinging his sword around and couldn't last long in the fight. In Tutorial 2 Round 6, his strength increases a little more after 10 hours of training. Now catching those 2 goblins from the front has become much easier, but because I'm physically weak and don't have many combat skills, dealing with the rest of the goblins isn't such a simple task. In Round 7, Kang Hyun continues to swing his sword tirelessly until he screams and falls to the ground, exhausted. As he gasps for breath, the system screen appears again, informing him that he has learned a new F-class skill called Basic Fencing. Basic Fencing, rank F skill that helps correct posture and distribute force in the swing of the sword, allowing for more effective blows. Description: it's a swordsman's skill used by local bandits, but it's better than having nothing. I did it! I finally did it! Thanks a lot, system. Damn goblins, now you're in my hands. In the next scene, Kang Hyun was explaining what he had done in the second stage. There are 5 of those damn goblins. 2 are in the initial part of the fortress, and the other 3 are in the second part in the forest. For now, the first 2 are easy. I killed the first one by surprise with a crossbow and then managed to kill the other one with my sword. The problem is the remaining 3 in the forest. The scene changes to Kang Hyun crossing swords with a goblin wielding a huge axe. They exchange blows quickly, but the impact of the goblin's blows causes Kang Hyun to retreat even though he's wearing a shield. Now I can see your attacks, you bastard. Kang Hyun, with his newly acquired skill, is able to predict the trajectory of the axe blows and dodge all the attacks. It feels like my body is reacting before I even think. That's certainly the skill I've acquired. With a very quick blow, Kang Hyun manages to scratch the goblin's face, which makes him furious. But Kang Hyun thinks, I still have a little problem. Dealing with the other 4 goblins, I'll run out of stamina. The goblin takes advantage of this and uses the lower part of his axe to disarm Kang Hyun, throwing his sword away. The goblin, seizing the advantage, advances to kill Kang Hyun, but he gives a little smile and manages to dodge the axe. Even the goblin is confused by this, and Kang Hyun thinks, these bastards really like torture, don't they? That's why he doesn't kill me right away. So I'm going to take advantage of his weakness and make him very tired. Kang Hyun realizes that the goblin's attack pattern is already very obvious and decides to act. He kicks the goblin in the face, which knocks him off balance, as Kang Hyun has also thrown dirt in his eyes. Seizing the opportunity, Kang Hyun grabs a rock, skids towards the goblin's leg, and smacks him in the shin. Wow, even I felt that goblin's pain now. With his shin injured and blinded, the goblin tries to attack, but misses, and Kang Hyun quickly moves to his back. When the goblin finally manages to open its eyes, it's too late. Kang Hyun is about to hit it again. I'm stronger. He delivers the blow, and the goblin sees the stone coming straight at him before having his face sunk in by Kang Hyun's attack. The goblin falls to the ground, his face bloodied. Now I've finally understood this phase. It's so boring that this time I even tried to die myself. The system appears to congratulate Kang Hyun on passing the second phase, granting him 5 additional status points to spend and the choice of a weapon as a reward. He picks up his shield and crossbow. I cleared it. I did it. Kang Hyun evolves 2 levels by doing so, and exclaims, that's the power of a race superior to yours, you damn goblin. The scene ends with Kang Hyun laughing uncontrollably, with an evil laugh. The next morning, Kang Hyun wakes up beaming. What a wonderful morning. Yes, it's me, Kang Hyun. For clearing the second stage, I deserve a reward. He starts cooking and, as he tastes his food, exclaims, yes, I know I made it, but it's perfect. Suddenly, he hears a loud noise. What the fuck? What did you just say? A system message appears. The Earth tutorial is complete. You can now use the system freely outside the tutorial. Both Kang Hyun and Ian are confused by the message. Another message pops up. The dungeon has been activated. The 2 run out onto the balcony to see what's going on and see that large dungeon doors have appeared right in front of their house. What's that? Is it a dungeon? The people around them start taking pictures, and the system warns them that dungeons can only be used by the awakened, as well as informing them that whoever enters the dungeon must finish it within a certain time. These dungeons have appeared in various places around the world, and the time remaining until the complete connection with the Haken dimension is 4 years, 357 days, 13 hours, and 59 minutes. After these dungeons appeared, the world became much more chaotic. First, my sister and I decided not to leave the house. We analyzed, checked, and organized a lot of information. It seems that the tutorial isn't entirely over. It seems that people who have just recently turned 18 are also signing up for the tutorial, and the comments section is in chaos because of these dungeons. People are wanting to call on these awakened ones to clear the dungeons. Kang Hyun continues to analyze the information until he sees a comment. People can keep turning the status window on and off. Is that really happening? He thinks, well, the most important thing now is to benefit from the statuses. He tries to open his status window, but it simply doesn't appear. Then a system screen pops up. The tutorial is still in progress. You can't use it. Ah, so I can't use it yet. Kang Hyun reflected. There are 8 stages in total to the tutorial. It seems that while I was trying to get through the second stage of the tutorial on 7 different days, other people managed to get through all the other stages. I wonder if there's another way to eliminate this dungeon apart from clearing it. Do you have any information about the 3rd stage? Unfortunately, Kang Hyun can't find any information about the 3rd phase. It seems that no one has any information. Information about stage 2 is also very scarce. Will I have to fight there again? Well, I'm much stronger now. I won't be humiliated by those damned monsters. I'm going to get through stage 3 with style and precision. However, in the evening, as he enters the 3rd phase of the tutorial, Kang Hyun soon finds himself in a desperate situation. Actually, I said that earlier, but right now I'm being pissed on by a monster. He despairs. Ah, you damned bastard. I'll kill you. We went back in time to when Kang Hyun was entering the 3rd phase of the tutorial. Stage 3. Prove your perseverance and patience by enduring any situation. Condition: eliminate the Gurk boss. Tip: if you wait long enough, the opportunity will eventually come. Kang Hyun reads the mission description. Ah, look at that, a camouflage suit. This mission here is infiltration, assassination or something, right? Eliminate the Gurk boss, so the first thing is to reconnoiter and find them. Let's see what I've got from the 1st and 2nd stages. He realizes that the system hasn't been very kind, as it hasn't even given him time to look at his status window. Kang Hyun is now at level 4, with the following attributes: Xenotation Spot Strength 10, Xenotation Spot Agility 10, Xenotation Spot Resistance 11, Xenotation Spot Magic 14, Xenotation Spot Additional Attributes 7. He also acquired the talents Basic Shield Skill and Basic Crossbow Technique. Ah, at last my status window is happy, and so am I for getting my new talents. It's just that these long descriptions are really boring. He decides where to distribute the additional attributes. I'll put a bit of strength, a bit of stamina, and a couple of points in agility just in case. The system reminds you, would you like to see your inventory? That's right, open the inventory. He sees a plus symbol next to a sword and pulls the weapon out of the system window. Oh, that's so cool. I think that's the most amazing thing I've done since all this started. With the pre-battle check completed, Kang Hyun decides, let's try to find this Gurk guy or whatever he is. Suddenly, an explanation appears about a guy called Carlos HCW, a legendary Navy sniper who managed to assassinate a general after crawling for 1.4 kilometers for 3 days. Kang Hyun thinks, that's the person I respect most in the world as of today. I've been dragging my feet for 10 hours. I'm almost there. Okay, I can see 2 guards on alert. Should I force my way past them? But those buggers look pumped. He realizes that his clothes are wet from the piss he took earlier, and that the surrounding grass is full of thorns and insects crawling all over him. What's that over there? Another of those monsters appears in front of him and urinates on him again. Kang Hyun tries to stay calm and thinks, I have to endure. The notice talked about perseverance and patience. Perseverance and patience. Perseverance and patience. Damn it, I'll slit your throat, you bastard. Kang Hyun plunges his sword into the monster's stomach and cuts it in half, splitting it from top to bottom. The monster falls dead, bloodied. Looks like everything I've done so far has been useless. But instead of the other guard attacking him, the monster starts screaming, alerting all the others to Kang Hyun's presence. Before long, he is surrounded by several of these monsters, all with torches in their hands. Since I'm here, let's see how many I can kill before I die. Come on, you bastards. As he shouts this, the system tells him that Kang Hyun has gained a new skill, the enraged lion's cry. The scene cuts to a bloodbath with heads flying everywhere. In Tutorial 3, Round 2, Kang Hyun shouts again, and the system appears to explain the new skill. Lion's Cry of Fury reduces the stats and morale of surrounding enemies, removes all debuffs from the user, and releases a boiling rage from within. It causes fear in all surrounding enemies and explodes any harmful effects on its own body. Kang Hyun thinks, that's something I learned after crawling for 10 hours. I'm going to kill you all, you bastards. He realizes that the real warriors seem to hunt during the day, leaving the other Gurks alone in the meantime. In other words, I'm going to party during the day, and off he goes, killing the monsters until he finally finds the general's tent. Kang Hyun comes crashing in, skidding across the floor. I'm here, you fucking Gurk boss. But as he enters, he is confronted by 2 mages, one on either side of the Gurk boss. Boss Gurk simply orders orders Kang Hyun to stop, and the two magicians cast a spell on him, creating a circle around him that prevents him from moving. The system warns that Kang Hyun has been hit by the magic restriction skill. My body doesn't move. Why wasn't that mentioned in the tutorial? But without wasting any time, Kang Hyun uses the lion's roar to remove all the negative effects. Boss Gurk is impressed by this and, without much reaction, is taken by surprise when Kang Hyun goes all out. Everyone has a plan, until they get stabbed. The system pops up again. Congratulations, you've passed the third stage of the tutorial. You have received the B rank skill Intermediate Physical Regeneration. You completed the tutorial at the fastest possible speed, setting a record. As an additional reward, you have acquired the title The Unstoppable. The description of the title, The Unstoppable, appears on the screen. Description: title given to the rebel who has completed stage 3 of the tutorial, which tests patience and perseverance, in the fastest time possible. The title is automatically transferred if someone breaks the record. Effect: +1 to all attributes. Kang Hyun, with a smile, thinks, let's take it easy there, my friend. I managed to clear stage 3 in 2 days. Considering that stage 2 took a week, that's quite a breakthrough. After this growth, I've come to a conclusion. Am I some kind of genius? At this point, I'll be able to complete stage 4 in a few minutes. That's what he thought a month ago. In a TV report, it was mentioned, 25 days have passed since the deployment of a special unit of Awakened to clear all the dungeons. It has been announced that 40% of the discovered dungeons have been cleared. Meanwhile, Awakened civilians continue to take part in the clearing activities. In response, the government is considering bonus awards. Suddenly, something interrupts the sound of the TV. Again, here it comes. If you carry on like this, the neighbors will file a complaint against us. What, an arrow through your head? Today I finished stage 4. I wiped them all out. At last, you were going mad, weren't you? Anyway, congratulations? Did they do something to your face? Stop it. Why have you been like this since morning? That tutorial is getting on my nerves. Well, good luck. Your face looks like a criminal's. Hey, so how was the 4th stage? To sum it up, it was like a group project. You had to demonstrate leadership and skills or something. The system appears to explain. Stage 4. Prove your leadership skills by leading all these people. Clearing condition. Eliminate the core of the dungeon. In short, the main mission was to lead a group to destroy the dungeon. Easy, you could say it was like an RPG, and the party members acted as if they were NPCs, following their assigned roles. They were debating whether to advance or retreat, but we didn't have enough supplies to advance recklessly. Despite the strong opposition, the decision was made to move forward. And, of course, I did a great job leading them. I boosted the group's morale with my Lion's Roar ability and took the front line with my healing power. The system appears to explain Kang Hyun's B rank. Physical regeneration. Description: regenerates and repairs any damage done to your body using magical power. So everything was going well, right? You were leading the staff. Why did it take you a month to do that? She shouldn't have asked, because Kang Hyun was very upset. The problem started at night. Those bastards waited for me to sleep to ambush me. Those bastards betrayed me. They killed me. I was doing everything in that dungeon, and they killed me. Ian, out of patience, interrupts. Swallow your food before you speak, you disgusting bastard. Kang Hyun finishes eating and continues. But anyway, after I revived, it was the same characters and the same mission. But in these extreme conditions, after being idle for a month, I finally came up with a plan with my genius mind. And what genius plan was that? I eliminated all those pests that stood in my way and progressed. The scene returns showing the last part that Kang Hyun had to face before finishing the tutorial. The group was debating whether to retreat or attack, but Kang Hyun couldn't take it anymore. He gives a shout that echoes throughout the area. One of the girls, startled, asks what he's doing, but he simply puts his sword close to her throat. From now on, all of you will follow my instructions. Anyone who resists will die. Disagree? You will die. You're going crazy. Stop saying that kind of thing. Before he could react, Kang Hyun takes a punch that sinks into his face, but he continues to hit his assailant. I told you not to disagree. The man, all beaten up, can barely speak, and Kang Hyun simply orders, just follow me because I know the way. Kang Hyun's status sheet is now as follows. Xenotation spot level 14. Xenotation spot strength 17 plus 1. Xenotation spot agility 15 plus 1. Xenotation spot resistance 17 plus 1. Xenotation spot magic power 15 +1. Xenotation spot additional statuses. 0. Kang Hyun is shown facing a skeleton with a sword. In one swift movement, he grabs the blade of the sword with his hand, twists the skeleton's arm, grabs the underside of the sword and cracks the skeleton's skull. So that was the last one, was it? The group is impressed to see that Kang Hyun has actually killed all the enemies single-handedly. Now we're alone. So this is the core, isn't it? Just destroy the pillar. He simply destroys the support that held up the core, and the system appears to warn him. Congratulations, you've cleared the 4th stage. You've received the skill 1 cut, 2 halves as a reward. You've also obtained the ring of the powerful mind and leveled up. Kang Hyun reflects on his achievements. Considering the results, the rewards of the 4th stage weren't bad. My skills are evolving exponentially, not to mention all the drops I've gotten in the meantime. Among them are some things I still don't know how to use very well, like these magic stones. Anyway, I've kept them all. Maybe they'll have a function in the future. He continues, in addition, I got the skill 1 cut, 2 halves, which allows me to split a target in half with a lot of force. And the ring of the powerful mind, that's pretty cool to use too. In a nutshell, this ring grants a lot of mental and magical resistance. But, for sure, my greatest achievement in all of this is that I've become really strong. The scene cuts to Kang Hyun doing 300 push-ups. Ouch, I managed to finish, but it seems that these exercises at home are becoming much less effective. I think I'll start going to the gym or something, until a notification appears on his cell phone. What's that notification? It's an emergency alert, informing us that one of the dungeons has broken, and monsters have come out of it, causing complete chaos in the streets, with goblins breaking everything and killing several people. The system had explained before that if the dungeon wasn't completed in a certain amount of time, it would open. And the dungeon that opened was the one in front of Kang Hyun's house. What the hell? I filled out a form to come here and solve this problem, and my sister, she's gone to work. She's in danger. Shit, I need a gun, something. This house is very safe. There's no gun here. Desperate, Kang Hyun sees a kitchen knife. That'll be it. He takes off running so fast that it's hard to see him properly. He tries to use the lion's roar, but realizes, it's been a while, hasn't it, you bastards? However, the goblin doesn't even react. As expected, I haven't finished the tutorial. I can't use my skill out here yet, but at least I managed to get their attention. Kang Hyun thinks as the goblins set off after him. Huh? What are those screams? Ah, they're gnomes. Bloody level 2, aren't they? He thinks that if they're on the same level as those in the level 2 tutorial, he won't have any problems with them. The first goblin barely approaches and Kang Hyun is already slicing its head in half with the kitchen knife. I can read your moves, you bastard. The knife goes through the goblin's skull, and Kang Hyun says, first of all, thanks for showing up. I'll make good use of that sword of yours. Meanwhile, in a large building that looks like a corporation, the doors are barricaded with furniture and other things because there are goblins attacking too. Among the people inside is Ayan, Kang Hyun's sister, who is thinking, what are you thinking of doing, brother? That's because, in the open conversation, Kang Hyun said he was going to rescue her. Suddenly, everyone hears sinister cries from the goblins, which don't sound like cries of victory. Something begins to completely break down the barricade they've made. Suddenly, we see a slipper. Oops, looks like I broke it. Little sister, where are you? Your big brother's here. Ah, your brother's finally here. People start to wonder who this guy is and if he really is her brother. What did you just do? I don't know who you are, but you just broke through our barricade. That way, the monsters will get in. Oh, sorry, I couldn't control my strength, but I don't think you need to worry about the monsters, no. People are impressed to see that Kang Hyun has taken care of all the monsters by himself. See those weapons over there that the goblins used? Grab one. I'm not sure you can fight, but don't panic. Alright, I can kill everyone. Hey Kang, what are you doing? On the way here, I saw more goblins, so there are probably more upstairs. Well, I'm going to kill them all so we can sleep in peace tonight. In the next scene, someone is pouring water on Kang Hyun's wound. I think you should save that water that we might need it later, right? Shut up. You need to take care of the wounds. But hey, you're really getting strong, huh? Yeah, I think I've learned how to hit, but not much how to dodge, right? My recovery skills are very strong inside the tutorial, but out here it's a different story. So it's safer. That's good, because you can't resurrect either. What I did was cool, wasn't it? Yeah, it was cool, until you got beaten to death. But I think other people are seeing it differently, you know? Some seniors in my company are very interested in that little body of yours. What do you think? Kang Hyun reflects for a moment. Okay, if that woman doesn't mind being woken up by a lot of shouting and swearing, but what the fuck? Suddenly, he finds himself in another place and the system tells him that he's at stage 5. Prove your wisdom and we'll be able to pass the challenge. Oh, I forgot about that. I was kind of distracted. Kang Hyun approaches a group of girls who are chatting. This time, the group is made up only of girls, and the task of this mission is to find out who the succubus among the humans is and kill her. The clue is, the succubus is hiding her true identity. Those who discover her true identity first will be the target. Kang Hyun thinks, isn't a succubus that creature that appears while men are asleep and sucks out their vitality? They're quite famous for being beautiful, aren't they? But I don't think that helps. All the women here are quite beautiful. Mr. Kang, what do you think? Oh, I'm sorry, the succubus? Who do you think she is? Kang Hyun thinks, looking closer, she's really pretty. I don't know, I have no idea. Suddenly, a message appears from the system warning that the ring of the strong mind has repelled a spell. At night, the girls start camping and Kang Hyun, sitting in front of the fire, begins to reflect. Stage 1 was hell. Stage 2 was a very long battle against goblins. In Stage 3, I was marked with piss after crawling for 10 hours. In Stage 4, I spent a month with that shitty group. So, it looks like things are finally getting interesting after I became a dog in this game. Oh God, I'm sorry, I wasn't cursing you. Kang Hyun changes his expression and thinks, I must control my expression here in this place. The person who is recognized as a succubus will become the target of all the others. I can't look suspicious. So this succubus must be quite powerful and she's disguised as a human. It's best to use an NPC to extract information. And since men are more affected by succubi, it's easier to use a female NPC, isn't it? Well, I'll go to sleep and think about it later. Kang Hyun starts to wake up and thinks, this ceiling is familiar. Huh? Am I in Ian's office? The people around commented that he had finally woken up, that the reinforcement was back. But Kang Hyun was pissed. Shit, that succubus killed me in my sleep. Suddenly, he hears a lot of noise outside. Several military cars pass through the streets, and an army begins to descend and open fire on the goblins. Yeah, the army has really arrived, but it's not over yet. There are many more of them. Kang Hyun suddenly feels a very strong presence. What is that presence I just felt? It's like there's something very dangerous down there. He looks doubtfully at what is happening down there, while the army continues to machine gun the goblins. One of the soldiers realizes that a goblin hasn't died, despite being shot several times. The goblin gets up and finishes off the soldier in front of him. The other soldiers panic. Why has that goblin just killed so many of us? One of the soldiers tries to warn them that there's a goblin killing everyone, but it's too late. The goblin was very close, and the car begins to accelerate to try to escape. Even with shots to the face, the goblin keeps chasing the vehicle. The goblin prepares an attack by jumping, and the poor soldiers don't have much to do. The car skids, hitting another, and the goblin starts jumping from car to car, killing the soldiers. From above, Kang Hyun watches everything, terrified by what is happening. When he finally faces this goblin's aura, he thinks, my friends, this could be anything but a goblin. And that concludes the story for today. What's up, guys? Did you like the video? If so, don't forget to leave that naughty like to help the channel grow even more. If you're not already subscribed, subscribe now so you don't miss out on any new content. Activate the bell to receive all the notifications and stay up to date with everything that's going on around here. Thank you so much for your support. You guys are amazing. See you in the next video. See you. After that, the goblin seems to have disappeared for a while. The soldiers stand up, ask what just happened, and call for reinforcements. An awakened man approaches, saying that his head hurts, but he doesn't have much time to think, as the goblin is already there again. As they confront the goblin, he asks where the reinforcements are, and the man replies that their reinforcement is a very capable civilian. He is shocked to hear this and says that the man will go mad before he dies. When he tries to shoot to defend himself, the gun doesn't work. The goblin is ready to finish him off, but our protagonist appears with a brick in his hand and throws it in the goblin's face, who seems to feel the pain. The goblin is thrown away, and the soldier wonders what that was all about. He asks the protagonist if he's all right, and the protagonist smiles psychopathically, making the soldier think he's a monster. The soldier raises his gun and almost shoots him, but the protagonist asks him to put it down, wondering if he doesn't look human. The soldier, confused, asks if the protagonist is human, and the protagonist replies ironically, saying that he must be a volunteer. The soldier apologizes, saying he's confused and has just escaped death. The protagonist warns him that the goblin isn't dead yet and that the soldier has clearly made eye contact with him. He says that if even the army has been annihilated, there's nothing to stop the goblin from invading his sister's company, so it's best to deal with it right there. He asks the soldier for a tear gas grenade and the soldier confirms that he has one. The soldier, confused, asks why, but the protagonist says he doesn't have time to explain, just that he's going and that no weapons should be pointed at him. He warns that if he is hit, everyone will be dead and instructs the soldiers to only shoot at the monsters that come close and to put on their masks so as not to be affected by the gas. The plan is put into practice. The soldier throws the tear gas grenade at the protagonist and the goblin. The gas starts to come out and easily affects the goblin, who starts to cry a lot. The protagonist observes and thinks that it's just like in the dungeon. The goblins are very affected by the gas, especially in the eye area, and completely lose their balance and concentration. The protagonist teases the goblin, saying that it may be immune to bullets, but it is suffering from a bit of gas. He claims that although the goblin has a high pain tolerance, he himself has suffered much more and goes towards the goblin. First, he confiscates the goblin's weapon, throwing it away, and begins to inflict a series of stabs on the goblin, who is resisting a lot due to his tough skin. As the protagonist tries to pierce the goblin, the soldier wonders if the protagonist is really an awakened one and what exactly he is. What exactly is going on here? I thought I was the backup. We see what looks like an awakened man in a gas mask. The blade that our protagonist took from the goblin is all messed up and he's even got a sore shoulder. Oh, that bastard. I've hardly damaged his skin. If this keeps up, I'll run out of energy to hit him. What do I do? The only thing I know how to do in this situation is cut. Please excuse me for a moment. The awakened one begins to make several cuts on the goblin's body, and it seems to be getting a bit more effective. Our protagonist thinks he's fast, but the goblin is still alive and his skin is quite tough, as if he were trying to cut a rock. Hey, awakened one on the other side, he's just a boss of an F-rank dungeon. And since his defense is so high, he must have a weakness. You sound like someone who knows a lot, don't you? Awakened, I don't know who you are, but I get it. Do you have any brilliant ideas? First of all, my strength isn't as powerful as yours and my stamina is almost depleted by beating this beast. I already knew that just by looking at your physique, buddy, you didn't have to say that. And what do you intend to do when your strength runs out? We can't damage it. Oh damn, my sword broke. I need something to use as a weapon. He looks back and sees the weapon he took from the goblin himself. I've got plenty of speed, but I can't land a blow to finish this creature off. Strike at a vital point while I try to distract it. The protagonist runs with his gun in his hand, even in a critical situation. He's putting on a show, but he knows how to defend himself. So where should I attack this goblin? Is it his hamstring? Oh, I don't know, it doesn't really matter. He hits and the goblin actually makes a face of pain. The awakened one is shocked because our protagonist used the weapon in a very backhanded way, in the extreme. He thinks nervously, somehow I feel a bit bad for this goblin now. And the moment an unpleasant sensation went up his axe handle, a philosophical question crossed his mind. Does the anus count as a vital point? Well, I doubt it's a weakness that would cause instant death. Then an instant decision is made, and his body executes the next move. He lifts the goblin's body by the ass and throws it down with all his might. It seems to have worked a little. The protagonist jumps up to give the goblin a clean hit and says, I guess inside your mouth can't be that hard. The goblin, stunned and wounded in the back, is unable to defend itself and the protagonist destroys the goblin's face. He is very tired, with the spear in the goblin's face, while the awakened one just analyzes what is happening. He thinks, this guy is strong. Where did such a qualified person come from? Could he be an awakened without a guild? The awakened notices something strange on the goblin's body. It seems to be a drop from the monster when it died, something shiny. However, he realizes that he can't get information about the item yet, as it's in the tutorial. The protagonist thinks, I'm not sure what this is used for, but I'll take it for now. It's a shame I don't have an inventory. This damn tutorial needs to end soon. The awakened one approaches and asks, excuse me, and the items dropped by the monsters are distributed equally, aren't they? But this person arrived out of the blue. I've done most of the work, so I'm going to run. The protagonist starts running and says, I have an urgent matter to attend to now. That great axe is now yours. Bye. Wait, bye, buddy. The awakened man is perplexed. Later that day, the protagonist explains that several hours after defeating that goblin, the situation seemed to have calm down a little. After passing through streets that looked like the ruins of a disaster, they manage to return home after dark. When they get home, the protagonist's sister stops them before entering. "Oh, you left without closing the door?" "Ah, I guess so." "Oh, I'm such an idiot for thinking you'd matured. Let's clean up here and then we'll see if there's anything to eat." After a while, they're having dinner. The sister is fiddling with her cell phone when she finds something very strange on the internet. "Oh, look at that cool." She shows the video to Kong. "Oh, what's that? Is that me?" It seems that someone recorded the fight against Rob Goblin. He sees the comments and thinks, that's not so bad. His sister is a little disgusted by the situation and makes an uncomfortable expression. "Hey, why do you always talk about my face? Huh? Is it that ugly? I keep telling you that every day. Hey, give me a hand here. Turn off the light for me, please." "Of course not." "Oh, please come on. I'll go back and turn off that light just because you've had a hard day, but don't shout. Tomorrow morning I'll be dead tired too. Don't worry, this next tutorial will be easy and we'll have a beer on me tomorrow while you tell me everything that happened. Your confidence makes me scared, but anyway, good luck." Wow, what support from my big sister, huh? The protagonist lies down to sleep and begins to reflect on that Rob Goblin and the awakened man who came to help him in the fight. That guy was strong. I wonder how many stages he went through. I was supposed to be dead by the second stage originally. Well, I won't think about that now. I'd better get past this stage soon because I'll be stronger than anyone. Lying down to sleep, he almost falls asleep thinking about the succubus from yesterday. She was cute, even if she did kill me. I'm excited to face her again. Ah, it's not bad to have someone looking at you in such an attractive way during the tutorial, is it? It's even a little consoling. But when he looks to see the succubus he so desperately wanted to see, it's an ugly goblin. His first reaction is to punch it. "My God, you've given me a heart attack." He knocks the goblin out in one blow. What kind of world is this? I'm in the wrong place. Then a system screen appears in front of him. Clear condition. Avoid the horde of goblins in the cave and clear the dungeon. Failure condition. Death. Hint. Cave goblins have very poor eyesight, but excellent hearing due to evolution. Find a way to distract them. Oh, that's nice. Sensitive hearing. Will you let me know after I've shouted? Several goblins begin to approach the protagonist. No, more importantly, why has the tutorial changed? The scene changes from the forest to the protagonist's scream, and he wakes up screaming again. His sister fights with him once again. The scene shifts to another building, where a guy is being pummeled by someone very strong. The aggressor has already done this to several people, and the observers wonder, why can someone who didn't even take part in the tutorial be stronger than an awakened one? It doesn't make much difference, does it? What's the point of being strong and not knowing how to fight? A video is shown and a commentator says, "Looks like there are some pretty powerful skill users out there. Let's take it easy, my friend." Have you liked and subscribed to the channel yet? And to support the channel, see how to use the hype tool, which helps us a lot. Let's get to the video. Meanwhile, in stage 5 of the tutorial, cleansing condition, defeat the Dleganger, a monster that hides among the masses and eats humans every night. When they talk about masses, they mean the population, not the physical mass. Failure condition, death. Hint, paladins and mages can use a special ability once a day. The monster that eats humans every night is impersonating someone here. At least, it's the same as the succubus situation in the first round. Apparently, it's the same map, but with different characters. Ah, I need wisdom to understand that. The protagonist catches his breath and prepares himself. Everyone gather around to listen to me. Of course, everyone looks, because he has used the lion's roar. From now on, anyone who moves is guilty. But at that moment, I had forgotten one thing. Usually, in Mafia games, those who speak up die first. Oh, come to think of it, I've never played a Mafia game, have I? Oh, I don't know. I think I'll have something to eat. And having said that, I never thought I'd keep repeating this same failure for over a month and a half. Rayon, how are you? This older brother of yours has been reborn in a very clever way. But what _ is this? What kind of thing is this that I have to? Right after work, I tried to change my appearance to change my interior. It's been 53 days since I died 53 times during that stage 5. Is there anything I can really do to get around this? He keeps telling me to use wisdom to pass, but the content changes every time. Wouldn't it be quicker if you got someone else's brain by transplanting it? Oh, you crazy idiot. You always say the same thing. If you had the money to buy a suit, you'd at least get an acoustic board so I wouldn't hear you screaming. The lady who lives below us had to install a speaker in her house. But our protagonist returns to stage 5. Prove your wisdom that you can overcome any difficulty. Huh, a cave? Is it a dungeon? The system appears again. Clearing condition. Completely clear the dungeon. Frank, the Turun hatchling. Failure condition. Death. Hint, the level of the spitting Turun guarding the incubus is 20. Find out its weaknesses and strategize accordingly. Walking through the dungeon, the protagonist encounters the Turun spitter. Clear the dungeon. That condition is so easy and simple. The protagonist jumps on the spider. Finally, I found a solution. I don't need to study Aristotle. Oh, look at that, spider spitting poison. But the protagonist is hit by the poison in the arm and realizes that it was necrotizing his arm. Ah, this poison is a bit annoying, but it's nothing for my body. He cuts off his own poisoned arm. Even the spider doesn't quite understand what he's done. The protagonist crawls over and gets under the spider. That hurts a bit. A system hint appears. Clues to the Turun spitter's weaknesses are hidden in its hatchery, but the protagonist just cuts the spider along with the system screen and splits it in two. After a lot of blood, he thinks, weaknesses? It doesn't matter. The important thing is that you kill it in the end. Instead of looking for the key to solving this, I'll just break everything. The system appears. Congratulations, you have completed stage 5. As a reward, you have received the power of the B-class giant. The power of the giant's skill is a skill that enhances muscles using magical power, increasing 12 points of strength for 10 minutes. The protagonist now bears the title The Unstoppable and has the following attributes: level 25, strength 20 plus 1, agility 19 plus 1, endurance 19 plus 1, magic 19 plus 1, and 0 additional points. All his skills remain as before. The scene shifts to a school where some students are talking. One of them mentions that he is turning 18 and was exhausted because of the tutorial. His friend comments that anyone who turns 18 takes part in the tutorial and asks how stage 1 was for him. The other replies that it was awful, just like all the rumors said. The friend notes that the problem is stages 5 onwards, which don't have many hints, and that maybe he won't get past 4. If you get past 4, you're already 1% of the people. The other mentions that the people who have passed this probably have valuable tips. Then he receives an update from someone who has completed stage 7 and is already on his way to 8. The theme of the internships is as follows. Xenotation spot stage 4, leadership, subdue all members through force. Xenotation spot stage 5, wisdom, the strongest muscle is the one that beats, not the brain. Xenotation spot stage 6, cruelty, destroy enemies and allies alike. Xenotation spot stage 7, devotion, destroy only your enemies. Everyone's like, seriously, but we know who gave those tips. The protagonist was frustrated by the criticism of his strategies. Oh, why are you shouting again? Oh, it's nothing. I was just revealing the strategies of the tutorial I'm giving. But nobody believes me. You're being very careful and meddling in these things, old man. Just wait and see. After I pass stage 8, I'm going to become the 3rd graduate of South Korea's tutorial. I'll rise to the level of that handsome guy, the leader of the Danjin Guild, or even Donggu, the president of the Awakened Alliance. She starts laughing at him. Ah, same level as your ass. How can you compare geniuses who solved the problem in one go with those who took months and months? Shut up. I cleared stage 6 and 7 in one go too. In the evening, the system appears again. Welcome to the tutorial, Kong. You have completed stage 7 of the tutorial. Would you like to go on to the final stage 8? The protagonist explains. The reward for stage 6 was the Bill Jin long sword. Stage 7 was the Ronald armor. If I manage to complete stage 8, I'll finally be able to use my inventory. I need to check what that Rob Goblin dropped. Anyway, nothing to look forward to. I just want to complete it once and for all. I don't want to stay at it for another week. He finally reaches stage 8 and is faced with the question, what are your CRAS? CRAS? What is that? Suddenly, everything starts to shake around him. The space that previously sent him to the stages begins to crack completely beneath his feet, and he falls into an eternal abyss. When he wakes up, he's in the middle of the street. Is this reality? No, it's not. A person walks past him as if he wasn't there. So I'm in a spiritual form. I don't know. It's the first time I've seen a city like this in the tutorial. Is this Earth? He notices that the people, even though they aren't human, look a lot like humans in terms of the way they live, their anatomy, and their clothes. The protagonist is in the middle of this crowd when suddenly one of the monsters makes eye contact with him. It wasn't looking directly at him, but several monsters appear behind the protagonist and run towards the people of this world. The people run desperately, but they can't stop the monsters. All these monsters are more than I've seen in all the tutorials. There are monsters here that I've never seen before. This is on a completely different level from a dungeon. This is the apocalypse for sure. He remembers the message that said the Haken dimension will connect with Earth in 4 years. So Earth will look like this in 4 years and a few days. Suddenly, a huge shadow appears behind him, resembling a colossal titan, bigger than part of the entire city. The monster falls on the protagonist, who can't even defend himself. His spirit form crumbles and he appears elsewhere. What was that now? What about that monster? How do you feel? Are you God or something? God? No, to put it simply, I'm like a dimensional administrator. This stage is actually a personal interview with me. Feel free to ask anything you're curious about. It's a very valuable hour. So, what I just saw back there is what the Earth will look like in 5 years' time. That depends on all of you from now on. No, wait, I don't understand. How do we stop this situation? As mentioned, I'm an administrator, not a guardian. I just keep the balance. The status window I gave you is the best I can do, Mr. Kong. Can I ask you a question? What kind of thing has guided you to be alive so far? The question was not banal, but profound. And why are you asking that? After observing humans during this event, I became curious. All beings without science are interesting, but humans are especially fascinating. The protagonist thinks, you're watching me and it's stressing me out. Maybe you haven't been observing enough. At least in my circle of people, no one is thinking nonsense about beliefs. We're fighting for a slightly happier world, simply surviving day by day. Is there someone you'd like to protect, Mr. Kong? Yes, my sister and my parents. I need to protect my family. I'd like to become a hero. What kind of question is that? After dying several times, I know my place well. This kind of work is exhausting for me. I once observed really talented heroes, and you, Mr. Kong, have almost no talent. The protagonist thinks, this guy is provoking me. Do you want to fight? But the administrator continues, personally, I'm more of a fan of you. Watching you master this tutorial was a lot of fun. The protagonist reflects, this guy could be a sadist. If the administrator is the second stage and the theme of wisdom, he should change it every time. The administrator doesn't answer. Looks like time's up. Now enjoy yourself, Mr. Kong. What? The tutorial was just the beginning. Many challenges await you. No, come on. That's it. Stop talking and answer right away. The 5th stage was supposed to change. Congratulations on your graduation, Mr. Kong. I'm sure you're going to save this world. Wait a minute, you son of a... Suddenly, Kong disappeared, leaving only the administrator. I'll be watching you in the meantime, Kong. The system appears for the protagonist, saying, you were the 62nd person to complete the tutorial and have earned the title of tutorial graduate. When he wakes up, he takes a sock out of his mouth and sees his sister next to him. You're finally awake. I expected you to scream, so I stuffed a sock in your mouth. I hope you don't have to use it. And if you're so angry, I expected it. Be quiet and leave me alone. I'm sure you failed again. The protagonist smiles. Status window, did you see that just now? I have this great power. Now enjoy it and go make some money. I've made you a special breakfast. Could you congratulate me more enthusiastically? What a cold heart you have. No wonder you don't have a boyfriend. She's holding a spatula to his face and then washing the dishes. Ouch, Kong. I'm going. Good job. The protagonist sits on the sofa analyzing the system window. So that's the title I got after completing the tutorial. It gives you 2 more in all attributes. In the future, it won't have such a big effect, but I realized that I can accumulate titles. Oh, I can accumulate titles. That's good. But a system window pops up informing me that, except for the first title, all the others will be 50% effective. As expected, it's not all flowers. So, the first title I'm going to put will be Tutorial Graduate, which gives me 2 points, and the other will be 0.5. The protagonist's file is updated. Xenotation Spot Kong. Xenotation Spot Title, Tutorial Graduate. Xenotation Spot Level, 28. Xenotation Spot Strength, 21, plus 2.5. Xenotation Spot Agility, 19, plus plus 2.5. Xenotation spot stamina, 20 plus 2.5. Xenotation spot magic, 20 plus 2.5. Xenotation spot additional states, 0. Xenotation spot accumulated skills. The protagonist had been waiting for this moment for some time. A mysterious box appeared. So this was the item I got after defeating Rob Goblin. Let's reveal the true nature of it. When he opens the box, he finds a skill book. The book contains the skill class Magic Explosion, which creates a small sphere that explodes in magic. The protagonist, holding the book, is thrilled and silently celebrates. After 4 months, he has finally learned to shout silently, and the system appears. Would you like to learn the Magic Explosion skill? Of course, he replies, and soon acquires his new skill. The book disappears in a flash, and the protagonist reflects, okay, now that I have the skill, it's time to prepare for the School of the Awakened. In the next scene, we're in the city early in the morning, and the perspective shifts to a girl called Myong. She's a newly hired civil servant and is starting her first job at the Awakened School, where those who have completed the tutorial come to get their certification. The country is creating a training system to awaken the best in the world. Myong thinks that such a system already exists, but she hopes that this new system will help many newcomers become heroes. She's excited about the journey, but also a little nervous. Excuse me, she says, trembling with fear. You need to show me your ID. The protagonist, visibly thinner than in the photo, replies, What did you say, miss? She gets scared just hearing his voice. Why are you doing this to me? What's the problem? What am I doing wrong? The surrounding group begin to comment from the back, with some filming the situation. Hey, wait up. I'm not doing anything. Do you have a problem? Instructor Kim Yum asks the protagonist. Kim Yum looks at the protagonist, who also looks back at him. Kim Yum's voice sounds familiar. You're Mr. Kong, right? You look a bit different from your photo. It's because my appearance has changed a bit due to my ability, but it's really me. If you need confirmation, I have the fingerprint and the DNA test too. You've completed the tutorial up to stage 5, right? Yes, that's right. Your level is 12. That's pretty high, isn't it? Were you doing dungeons illegally? The protagonist thinks, level 12? I'm much higher than that. Even though I've lowered it, it still looks suspicious. I entered a few times before the law came into force, the protagonist explains. What exactly is this male force ability you mentioned? It's a skill that temporarily doubles my strength, replies the protagonist. Thank you for your cooperation, but I need to check all the rewards you've received. At stage 3, you gained a skill. At stage 4, an accessory. At stage 5, another skill. I need to see everything. The protagonist shows off his stage 3 skills by biting off his own arm and tearing off a chunk in front of Kim Yum. The wound begins to regenerate thanks to his skill. Ah, a regeneration skill, comments Kim Yum. For stage 4, it was this ring here, the protagonist continues, showing the accessory. And for stage 5, this skill is basically a war cry that scares enemies. Is it okay if I use it here? Of course, Mr. Kong. Make yourself at home. In the queue, a half-psychopathic man watches and recognizes the protagonist. When he realizes who it is, he quickly covers his ears, knowing what's coming. The protagonist then lets out a scream so loud that everyone in the place starts shaking, and the instructor is visibly impressed. Is it good enough for you? Asks the protagonist. Yes, Mr. Kong. That's more than enough. To complete your registration, go to the 2nd floor of the building. When the psychopathic guy sees this, he smiles a little. In the next scene, the protagonist does a recap. I was almost denied entry because I looked different from my ID photo. But after drawing everyone's attention with a ferocious roar, now I'm sitting here and everyone is gossiping about me. The staff comment that he fainted the receptionist with his scream, which really didn't go down well with her, but the protagonist realizes that there is something strange going on. Meanwhile, the same psychopathic man who was watching the protagonist earlier is after him. The instructor, Kim Yum, enters the room and says, I'm Kim Yum and I'm going to lead the training for the Song'en branch. The training will consist of 10 days of morning lectures and afternoon practical sessions. Meals and accommodation will be provided here. If there are no major problems, you should all complete the course safely and get your certification. As you know, less than half a year has passed since the world changed. New information about dungeons and monsters arrives daily, which is why tactics and strategies are also constantly evolving. In other words, what you learn now may not be exactly right. Therefore, I will only teach you what is essential for survival. I look forward to working with you. We're going to finish the first period now. Please take a 10-minute break before the next period. In the next scene, everyone is leaving after the first lesson, and the protagonist reflects, "My God, this is as boring as theoretical army training. Are we going to do this for 10 days? A muscular man approaches the protagonist and introduces himself as Quack's soul. He goes to shake hands with the protagonist, who notices something strange. Quack's soul shakes his hand on purpose, and the protagonist thinks, "What has gotten into this muscle man's head?" Despite the apparent attempt to destabilize him, the protagonist, using his power of the giant skill, sees his muscles become more fibrous and enhanced by magic. The system indicates that giant power has been activated, and the protagonist begins to squeeze Quack's soul's arm with increasing force. Quack's soul's arm begins to swell and eventually bursts into blood, leaving everyone in the room shocked and disgusted, except the psychopath who seems to have enjoyed the scene. The ambulance is called. After all the confusion, the protagonist is called to testify at the office. "No, it's not true. That musclehead who asked for the handshake. While I was waving my arm, he puffed up and suddenly exploded. Should I believe what you're saying?" asks the instructor skeptically. "You don't have to believe it. Luckily, my power of the giant skill only increased my strength 1.5 times. If you don't trust me, look at the security cameras. Didn't you say that the name of your skill was Strength of Man?" "Yes, it's true. Strength of Man increases strength by twice, not 1.5. It's just that I'm not very good with numbers," the protagonist explains. The instructor, discouraged, gives up confronting the protagonist and releases him to return to the room. "I'm exhausted from that first day," the protagonist thinks, as a new person approaches him. "Hello, can I sit next to you?" "Oh, yes, of course," replies the protagonist. "I'm Ison, and my name is Kong. Can I call you Big Brother? I've just turned 18 and completed the tutorial, so feel free to call me informally too," says Ison. The protagonist thinks, "From the looks of you, you seem to be the oldest here. How did you do that earlier?" "Oh, what are you talking about? Blowing the guy's arm off was an incredible skill, wasn't it?" replies Ison. The protagonist thinks, "This guy isn't normal. I'm telling you, I didn't blow the guy's muscle on purpose." The instructor enters the room and says, "We're going to start the second period. Please take your seats. Due to the long delay today, I'm going to summarize the information. Currently, dungeons are divided into two categories: regular dungeons and incomplete dungeons. Regular dungeons are the most common and usually only open after 4 weeks. When a dungeon opens, monsters come out into the real world. An incomplete dungeon, on the other hand, is one whose opening cannot be accurately estimated. It may happen sooner or later than the 4 weeks planned. Constant vigilance is required. To prevent the opening of a dungeon, there are two methods. The first is to destroy the main core of the dungeon, and the second is to remove the regular cores to delay the opening. But beware, the core orders can be intense. At this point, a student starts shouting and complaining that he's not there to listen to useless things, just to learn how to kill monsters. The instructor tries to control the situation, but a guard almost solves the problem with a more aggressive approach. The instructor, however, intervenes and says, "It's all right. Awakened students, please come downstairs. I'm talking to you. Turn around." The angry student asks if the instructor thinks he can deal with him. The instructor replies, "Well, I'm down here. What are you going to do now? From now on, I'm just going to dodge and block your attacks for a minute. If you manage to hit me once, I'll graduate you immediately. Otherwise, you'll be expelled. Do you want to try?" The protagonist and Song watch and think that the muscle man is quite annoying, but the fight looks interesting. The instructor starts dodging and blocking the muscular man's attacks, who is annoyed and decides to use a real sword from his inventory. He asks the instructor if he will regret his decision. The guard warns him about using the sword, but the instructor says it's okay and he can come. The muscular man charges in with a quick attack, but the instructor deflects it with ease. "If you say you're going to attack before you attack, it's useless. You don't know the basics of surprise attacks," says the instructor. This makes the muscular man furious, and he finally manages to hit the instructor, but it was only an illusion. The instructor continues to move with impressive speed, looking like several illusions. He observes and understands his opponent's movements, blocking and deflecting with ease. The muscular man gets increasingly angry and tries to attack with more force, but the instructor ducks to dodge and, in one swift movement, kicks the muscular man's sword into the ceiling, where it sticks due to the force of the impact. "If you use force incorrectly, you'll be at a disadvantage," the instructor comments. With time running out, everyone in the room is shocked by what they have just seen. The protagonist reflects, "In videos of professional boxers, I see them easily dodging punches from ordinary people. But easily dodging an awakened one, is that the real difference difference between us and superhumans? The speed and reflexes he's shown are impressive. Even if I increase my attributes a lot, it will be difficult to keep up with that level of skill. During the fight, the protagonist and the psychopath Ison watch intently, wondering who will win. The protagonist thinks, "What's with this guy's expression? Is he a psychopath? Next time I'll avoid sitting next to him. I don't like that kind of person." Later, as the instructor had mentioned, the practical lessons began. The instructor said, "Today, practice will be with weapons. Please review the practice turns. At first, train as you know how, and the assistant will correct your movements. Unfortunately, we don't have enough manpower to teach you individually, so I hope you understand." The protagonist thought, "These classes are really tedious." He picked up his sword and commented, "Practicing with weapons sounds pretty boring, doesn't it? Do you want to practice together? Actually, you seem to be good at fighting." A colleague replied, "Remember that it's forbidden to duel until the 6th day of training." What an annoying guy. After that, all the students started swinging their swords. The protagonist thought, "I didn't expect much from this place, but the level here is very low. I don't even need to practice it here." He began to swing his sword skillfully, ignoring the exercise that seemed simple to him. The instructor was watching Kong as he trained. A trainee approached him and said, "You shouldn't be doing it like that. In practice, it's important to close your legs and adjust the angle of the sword. What you're doing is just an exhibition that won't do any good in a real situation." The protagonist thought, "Who does this guy think he is?" Although he felt like confronting the intern, he just replied, "Okay, fine." The instructor then clapped his hands to get everyone's attention. "Now, everyone pay attention. There will be a demonstration of a duel between the assistant and one of our awakened students. Kong will continue swinging his sword as usual, and you'll just exchange a few blows." The assistant instructor was confused by this, but the protagonist was excited. The instructor then ordered, "You can start in 3, 2, 1. The protagonist advanced with determination. He hit the assistant's sword so hard that he was barely able to resist. With ease, the protagonist disarmed the assistant, causing his sword to fly away and fall to the ground with him. When the combat ended, the room fell silent, everyone impressed by the demonstration. The instructor commented, "We want to teach weapon skills that prepare them for the real world. It's crucial to have muscle reflexes, but, as Kong showed, we must never forget the importance of reflexes in combat and learn to react. Never think that everything you learn here is the only truth." Let's give a round of applause to the 12 individuals who gave an excellent demonstration. The protagonist, although proud, was confused as to why he was receiving applause. The assistant instructor apologized, "Sorry about that. It seems you were taken by surprise. I just wanted to test something," he said, staring at the protagonist. In the next scene, we see Kang's precious training diary. On the first day, a musclehead tried to pick a fight with him, and he taught him a lesson. On the second day, a guy called Yusong started acting friendly towards Kong, but he seemed a little crazy. The theory lessons were boring and the practical training wasn't very useful. The second day wasn't much different from the first. They learned some techniques with the weapons in the afternoon, and Yusong seemed a little too excited about the lesson. Best to keep your distance. On the third day, the only person he still knew in that place was Malakinho, and they even tried to duel, but the instructor obviously wouldn't let them. On the fourth day, our protagonist was even drawing in his diary, saying that he was a bit discouraged. That same day, he tried to fight with 2 swords, but the instructor wouldn't let him either. On the 5th day, he just wanted to go home soon and was even dozing off. In the afternoon training session, he didn't even make an effort, he just lay there. On the 6th day, he was bored out of his mind. "Ah, how boring," he thought. "Yusong, you don't want to cause any trouble, do you? Didn't you say we should behave ourselves and finish the course calmly? But it's not my problem if you're expelled, is it? You say such undesirable things so casually. But I don't think you need to worry too much. Today is the 6th day, the day we can duel. I feel something interesting is going to happen. My instinct is telling me so." Later that day, at dueling practice, we see 2 people dueling, and one guy is losing at that very moment. It's our protagonist who was winning. Trainee Kong, next, get ready. You're good at fighting, aren't you? I saw you knock out your opponent. He was weak, that's all, the instructor said. Oh, come on, you're being so humble. Why, huh? The protagonist was already paying attention to something else and thought what he was doing sounded like child's play. In general, there isn't a high level here. I don't know much about talent or anything like that, but it seems that most of them don't make it past many stages. They said training would continue until the 8th. Do these people really have to keep doing this boring stuff? We see 2 desperate people dueling. One is going to attack and the other is trying to defend himself. They're 2 dicks, but the other students are amazed at what's happening now, because the guy's blade has almost touched the other's eyes. The instructor manages to stop it. Let's stop here. Okay, the winner is Shang W, said the instructor. Shang got excited and thought, this guy is good. If I'm going to fight, I'd rather fight Instructor Kim, right? Next group. Yusong is going up to fight now. I'm going for it, partner. Oh yeah, sure. Go ahead, replied the other. He gave a little psycho grin, and the protagonist paid close attention to what he was going to do. He remembered Yusong saying that he felt something interesting was going to happen, and the protagonist thought, he's not going to cause any trouble, is he? I'm sensing something very bad about that. Well, I mean, we have an instructor here, right? Nothing too bad is going to happen, right? Meanwhile, Instructor Kim was there explaining that, as this girl is a mage, she's going to use her own weapon instead of the one that's there. He asked Yusong if he had any objections to this, and Yusong replied that he didn't. He looked strangely at Yusong, but he looked at Yusong strangely. But your training weapon was a sword, wasn't it? Why a mace now? Yusong replied, there was no rule saying that I had to use only one weapon, was there? Sure, fine then. Okay, both sides, get ready. Step back. I'll count to 3 and you can start. 1, 2, 3. The magician is already preparing several crystals in Yusong's direction. She fires them at a very high speed, but Yusong grabs his mace and begins to repel all these crystals, breaking and fragmenting them completely. This is getting his adrenaline pumping, and the people watching are impressed. Kong thinks, this is the first time I've seen magic in real life, so you can learn magic too depending on how you do it in the tutorial? And why didn't I see this kind of weapon during training, huh? Did she train separately from the others? Meanwhile, the mage is a little worried, as all her attacks have been repelled very easily. She concentrates a lot more power to create a little crystal for the instructor, and when Kim notices this little glance, he gets worried. Yusong prepares himself and attacks the crystal with his mace, looking like a psychopath. Seeing this, Kong realizes what he's doing. Is he really directing the magic to hit the instructor? And that's exactly what it is, because the crystal is heading straight for Kim, but he obviously manages to dodge it. While he's distracted, Kim realizes that it was no good dodging, because Yusong was already on top of the magician. My friends, the next attack caused a lot of blood to fly, so much so that both the instructor and Kong were frightened. The only thing we see of the poor mage is her hand all torn up and Yusong gloating with all her blood on his body, smiling a lot because he was so happy about it. The protagonist thinks mentally and then puts it in his diary. This guy is a lot crazier than I thought. Instructor Kim then tells the assistant to get the first aid kit and call an ambulance. The instructor picks up the phone and explains that there's a compound fracture in the girl's right hand and he's going to help her with the first aid kit. Meanwhile, Kim puts a knife to Yusong's neck. Cadet Yusong, what do you think you've done now? The instructor was furious. It was just a mistake. Accidents happen during duels, don't they? Do you expect me to believe what you're saying? Yusong winks at the instructor and then turns away. Let's all take a 20-minute break, please. Report here at exactly 3 o'clock this afternoon. Cadet Yusong, will you follow me? Of course, of course. At that moment, Kong was paying attention to something else. The dagger the instructor was using. I know that dagger. In the next scene, after the incident, the protagonist explains that, even after the incident, the duels continued as usual. Oh, and Yusong wasn't expelled and still took part in the training sessions. But it seemed that he had been marked out as a person of interest. The instructors and assistants were extremely wary of him. What's more, there were many more forfeit victories than usual. They even had a healer ready on the side. Anyway, the days passed until the 8th day and nothing more happened. However, there was still one more thing to do. In Instructor Kim's office, the protagonist says, "Hello, Mr. Kim. Training is almost over, isn't it? Then I want to duel you." Kim replies, since you're graduating in 2 days, why can't you leave me alone? This selection of students is particularly exhausting. Isn't it a bit childish to pretend to be bored, Instructor Kim? Mr. Kim, let's be honest. Aren't you restless and bored too? This place isn't for looking at documents, is it? And we've met before, haven't we? Kim glares at Kong. In the next scene, around sunset time, Kim confirms, indeed, that person from back then was you, wasn't it? Cadet Kong, even if you're late, thank you. Thanks to you, we were able to prevent further damage. Oh no. Yes, of course, everything's fine. Kong is nervous and thinks, he didn't realize I took the goblin's item, did he? However, Cadet Kong, you said you went to level 5, right? But you have a very impressive sword. Is it the reward for level 6? Oh yes, I found it during a cleanup. That sounds a lot like an excuse, but it's all right. It seems you're not willing to answer any more questions. So, in that case, I'll also answer with something I found during a cleanse. Kim arms himself with his daggers and disappears from Kang's sight, appearing behind him, ready to thrust his daggers. Obviously, Kong manages to react and blocks the attack with his sword. I thought I had focused mostly on your strength, but your agility is also impressive. Being strong is one thing, but leaving yourself vulnerable is another. Now that I've recovered my skills, feel free to do whatever you want. Then I won't hold back. Kim disappears again and comes in with a storm of attacks towards Kong, who manages to repel each of the clone's attacks. The instructor thinks, unbelievable physical strength and even greater speed. That's it. That's what a duel should be. The instructor realizes that Kang's regeneration abilities are really powerful. Well then, in that case, I'll be a little more aggressive. He lunges forward with his original body, trying to create an opening. But Kong gives a little smile and, instead of defending with his sword, puts his arm forward. The instructor thrusts his dagger into Kang's arm. But, what? My dagger is stuck. You're not going to tell me that my dagger got stuck in his arm. I got you. Kong pulls his arm out, pulling the instructor along, and headbutts him. This headbutt completely knocks out the instructor. When he's already on the ground, he opens his eyes a little and says, I lost. In the next scene, they are recovering. Kong is having a soft drink. Cadet Kong, you really are very powerful. Ah, yes, you too, of course. Yes. Actually, that duel was essentially a draw, wasn't it? We agreed not to use skills during this duel, but it's like I used my regeneration anyway. You know? So you take it that way? Let's say I won, shall we? That doesn't adjust my skill. It's passive. And he sighs. Anyway, thanks, Kong. I feel a bit relieved of the stress. Come in and get some rest today, because tomorrow's training is going to be practical. Dungeon exploration. Speaking of the dungeon they're going to explore, we see a hooded man standing in front of it. He looks around to make sure there's no one there, disguises himself with a stealth spell and opens the dungeon doors, going inside and closing them. The next morning, in front of this dungeon, this place has been designated as an educational dungeon by the Awakened Skills Training School. It's a rank F dungeon, the Geek Forest. The geek monsters that appear here are more powerful than the average geek monster in other F-rank dungeons. However, there are two reasons why this place has been designated as an educational dungeon. Firstly, it's a field-type dungeon. It has traps, etc., but there's no threat other than monsters. Secondly, the geeks live individually, so you can deal with them one at a time. More details will be explained after you enter the dungeon. Kong thinks, this is the first time I've entered a dungeon in real life since the tutorial began. I've never entered a dungeon before. When I passed through the door, I felt a slight sensation of levitation. When I opened my eyes, the view changed completely. So that's a portal. The gate we've just passed through will take us back to the same place. We can go back to where we came from. They explained this in class. Oh, I don't want to be seen as crazy here, no. And don't talk to me anymore. Weren't you the one who spoke first, my brother? The instructor continues his explanation. First, the assistant instructor will attract a geek and give you a demonstration. After that, you will hunt one monster at a time. A group of 5 people will watch as the assistant lures the geek into an open space where it's easier to fight. As we go along, I'll explain about the geeks again. The geek is a bird-like monster. From head to toe, it measures just over 2 meters in height and its appearance is very close to that of an ostrich. Its characteristics are fast feet and a very strong beak. In particular, an attack using its beak can even dent plate armor. Because it is so deadly, special care is needed. The standard strategy is to surround it with several people and tie its feet together. Suddenly, a system screen appears saying, the central core of the dungeon has been removed. The portal to the outside has been opened. This message appeared to everyone inside the dungeon at the time. The dungeon is about to collapse. Everyone, please leave. Indeed, we see the dungeon cracking as if it were space-time breaking apart. The instructors are already carrying out the emergency procedure, ordering everyone to get out one at a time. At this point, everyone is leaving the dungeon and wondering what happened. Instructor Kim is telling them if everyone is there. Apparently they are, but he wonders who cleared the dungeon. Then the assistant instructor notices something very strange. The dungeon was bizarrely strange and Kim knew what it was, getting very scared. Assistant instructor, quick, call for reinforcements. Recruits, please Please leave the premises immediately. It's a dungeon breach. Mr. Kim, what's going on? Recruit Kong, you've arrived at the right place. It's a dungeon breach and I'd like people like you to help me on the front line. A dungeon breach? Yes, if you destroy or remove the main core without killing the boss monster, as the dungeon collapses, the remaining monsters will come out through the portal. That's a dungeon break. Shouldn't you have learned all this in the theory class? Oh yes, I did. Actually, it was just a test to see if you could explain it to me like a teacher. Again, just talking nonsense, aren't you? Kong, I'm sorry, but we don't have time for jokes. Geek will be leaving here soon. I'll lead the trainees and you stay here first, okay? Just then a geek comes barreling towards them. What the hell, it's already appeared. Kong, I'll leave this to you. Oh, come on, no. I haven't heard everything yet. Oh shit. The instructor rushes into the midst of the other trainee students to sort them out. The protagonist is left to deal with the monsters. I don't mind one bit. Let's go. Take me with you on this one, my brother. And Yusong appears with his mace, ready for combat. You've got a psychopath like that on your side? Isn't that an idea? And he kills the beast with one blow. Yusong, as expected, smashing him with my mace was such a wonderful feeling. The protagonist looks at him with disgust and contempt and thinks, oh, I hate that feeling. But anyway, having a psychopath on my side is being very reliable. That's what I said. Yusong is a psychopath. He's copying me. And he starts a massacre, chopping off heads everywhere. Yusong covers his ears and is affected by the bastard lion's roar. The system warns that all the enemy's moral statuses have decreased, affecting confidence, courage, that sort of thing. The instructor notices this and thinks, that was Kang's skill, wasn't it? He just weakened the enemies. Reinforcements will be arriving soon. It seems it's possible to resolve things more smoothly than I imagined. But that's not the main problem. Switch to the scene of the protagonist battling. He makes a magical explosion and punches Geek, but his hand is scorched. What kind of skill is that? What did you do, bro? Magic. What I've done now is a skill I acquired in the tutorial. It's a secret. His hand was already completely regenerated. But we have something more important to deal with. Look over there, and we see a huge geek paw. It's a much bigger geek than the others. That's the boss of the dungeon, the mutant geek. The instructor thinks, that's a big problem because the reinforcements haven't arrived yet. No matter how well Kong can deal with the others, this big monster is the problem. Even those two combat aficionados are going to have a hard time with it. The two who are in psychopath mode again face each other. That's mine. You'd better stay out of it. Stop talking shit. This big one's mine. In the next scene, we see the office the day after graduation. So, you're telling me that there was an accident yesterday during practical dungeon training, right? And we see an instructor Kim and a woman talking to him. Yes, that's it. It seems that someone intentionally broke the dungeon, and it's being speculated that this is part of the same series of dungeon terror crimes that have been going on for the past month. Have any interns stood out in the meantime? Oh yes, there were two. Miss, they were the two who managed to deal with the boss, the mutant geek, on their own. Look, one of them has extremely fantastic physical strength and preparation. Strength, reflexes, agility, everything is at the level of a monster. But his greatest strength isn't even that. It's his high healing power, not just his stamina, but also his recklessness and lack of fear of getting hurt. This has resulted in unpredictable tactics, which can be the hardest things for the enemy to deal with. The other is of a completely different kind. Perhaps he should be called a genius. He has a great fighting sense, extraordinary reflexes, really good techniques and proficiencies, but his excess cruelty is a major flaw. Disregarding that last line, it's very rare that you praise someone. You've done some good recruiting. Well, miss, it's illegal to sell your trainees while you're still an instructor. You're as adamant as you usually are, aren't you? Well, it's natural for employees to resemble their boss's personality, isn't it, Miss Guild Leader? She's Hanan, Gum's Guild Leader. I know you're really enjoying being an instructor, but I need you to come back to the guild soon. This incident has something interesting about it. Yes, I understand, miss. In the next scene, we see the graduation. They're thanking each other, talking papopa, and finally they finish the graduation ceremony by clapping. So, that's the school principal, is it? I've seen the instructor's face several times, so I thought he was the man around here. In the next scene, outside, we see a butler saying, "The master may enter," and we see a limousine all studded with diamonds. This is Yusong's limousine. Yusong, you were born in a golden cradle and you didn't tell me. Get in, Kong. I'll take you home. Well, who am I to say no, right? Thanks. Look, I've never been in a car like that, until someone calls Kong before he gets in. Instructor Kim is here to say goodbye. Ah, you're the caring type, aren't you? Not quite, but let's just say that the dungeon-busting incident happened yesterday, and the rewards of that sensation of yours will be given to the two of you who provided so much help. Know that we'll be contacting you and Mr. Song soon. So, with that said, I'm leaving. Wait a minute, did you really come just to say that? At least say something about gratitude. I don't know. Ah, you're strong. You'll probably become even stronger in the future, and I'm sure we won't have to wait too long to meet again. However, never forget your responsibility as a person who has skills now, as you are now the known skill user. At home, we see that the protagonist has stuck his skill user card on his forehead. See that, Ron? Your brother has potential. Yeah, that's great. Your arrogant behavior will stop. Tomorrow I'm gonna run through all the dungeons I can. But wait, how do I get into a dungeon? Is it like an RPG game, where you go around the map looking for something? No, you idiot. They say there's an app for skill users. It's called Radar. You can see everything from there. Ah, you're some kind of genius. Thank you very much. Oh, you'd know if you used social media. And he thinks back, he used to play so many games on the internet. Why is he getting dumber with time? Dungeon map, monster information. Look, they recruit members too. They said that dungeon you broke was F rank, right? I can't just do it myself. I think I can. I'll make a lot of money and send it to mom. The next day, the reporter says, the rewards for clearing a low-grade dungeon, an F-class dungeon, are said to be incredible, 20 million won. In addition, the magic stone is attracting attention with a new energy source, and it's said that items dropped by monsters are also highly prized. That could easily complete a monthly income, until we see a middle-aged man watching the report. Ah, dear, have you heard anything about Kong these last few days? I heard he took out an awakened wallet last month, didn't he? Anyway, he sent 10 million with the money he won. Oh, what? You didn't tell me anything. And it looks like he bought a used car last week too. Ah, so that's it. Now he earns more than his father. Anyway, I'm worried. I've seen that several people are getting hurt and dying in these dungeons. If something happens, oh, leave him. It's better than being unemployed at his age, isn't it? And he said that on TV you could form a team or something so you wouldn't be in so much danger. From what I know of my son, he's not such a reckless person. He'll be fine. He's always been intelligent since he was a child. The scene switches to a dungeon where several monsters are being killed. It's the protagonist who's there, chopping up all the creatures he encounters. That's nothing. Come on, get up there. He continues to kill all the spiders in the area. A little later, near that dungeon, we see Kang's new car, called Bewley. His cell phone starts ringing in the back seat. We return to the scene with Kang's parents. Oh, he's not answering. He must be asleep or something. Don't keep waking him up for no reason. Don't call now, call tomorrow. Yeah, I guess it must be something like that. I'll come back after I've done the dishes and we'll go to bed. And when you call him tomorrow, tell him about what happened. What are you talking about, darling? That strange thing that appeared in front of the market near here. Oh, that. I've already filled in the form. I think the state will take care of it. How long should we wait until they arrive? If it's going to take that long, it's easier to call our son. Ah, but I'm sure it'll be uncomfortable for him and I don't want to bother him. But just as they're talking about the dungeon, we see it open up. It's a dungeon breach and several orcs come out of it, including one with an evil aura. In the morning, with the sun rising, the system appears to warn Kong. The central core of the dungeon has been removed. A portal is being opened. Ah, looks like I cleared it in a day, doesn't it? Okay, next F-rank dungeon. Is that too much? I'd better be careful. I haven't yet tested whether my resurrection works in real life. First, I'm going home to get some sleep and rest, and talk to Rayon. Missed calls from Rayon. Hello? What's going on? Brother, something very bad has happened. Mom and Dad. She keeps talking, but we don't know what she said. This leaves the protagonist with a very gloomy expression. In the next scene, we return to the reports. The government has announced that it is mobilizing all forces for a quick resolution on the large-scale dungeon opening incident. The Ministry of National Defense, in cooperation with civilian capacity user groups, has cordoned off the town of Hangra to prevent further damage. But concerns are growing for the isolated residents within the fenced area. In response, the Gum Guild has declared that it will actively participate in the rescue operations. Meanwhile, the protagonist's sister is talking to him while he's getting ready. Are you really going alone like this? Don't worry, Rayon. Who do you think I am? Even if I look like this, I'm still a tutorial graduate. Just wait for me at home, okay? Cool, but she's obviously very worried. Kong, be careful, okay? I told you not to worry. Come in and get some rest. I'll bring Mom and Dad soon. Inside the car, the protagonist has blood in his eyes. Driving along one of the roads linking the city, he is stopped by the army, who tell him he can't go on because he's a civilian. I'm a skill user. I can pass. But the soldier says he's alone, not in a group. His superior tells him to let him pass because he's been informed that they might allow skill users into the city. The soldier warns him that the army is not responsible, nor is the government, for anything that happens to him. Understood. Thanks for the good work. The protagonist continues. There are already 5 dungeons confirmed to be open, and it looks like there's a rank dungeon mixed in as well. I hope they're keeping a tight lid on it. Will I make it in time? Well, if no monsters appear on the way in 2 hours. But just as he says this, a huge wild boar drives up. He doesn't even realize it, and by the time he does, the car is overturning. The boar keeps running after the car, even while it's spinning. When the car finishes overturning, the boar is going bloodthirsty. The protagonist slowly gets out of the car. What a mouthful. Ah, that fucking pig. How dare you destroy my beloved cart? He pulls out his sword from his inventory. Come on, you bastard. I'm going to avenge Bentley. When the boar growls, he thinks, okay, it's a bit bigger than I thought. He hears more shouting in the background and sees an army of goblins behind him. Shit, did I burn down a goblin village in my past life? When I forget about them, they appear. Oh, forget about killing. I don't have time for that. He runs away from the boar and the goblins. Well, I was once told that the best revenge is to apologize. I have to go now. Have a nice day. And off he goes. The goblin gets extremely angry because the protagonist is too fast. He also receives a hail of arrows from the goblins. The protagonist thinks, well, when the goblins attack, if you want to fight each other. Now that Bentley's gone, I can't waste time on unnecessary things. He runs so fast that night comes and he stops in the forest, very tired. Looking at the GPS, he thinks, it looks like I'll get there in a day on foot. And I also need to save battery power. I can't keep using my flashlight. If I'd known about this route, I would have taken the road with the bollards. I ended up taking a shortcut and it got too dark. Suddenly, something approaches the protagonist's back, but he manages to react in time and makes a cut without even seeing the monster. When he looks, it's a monstrous wolf. He slits the wolf's throat, a monster that can turn invisible. I've never seen one of these before. It looks like I won't be able to sleep comfortably tonight, but it looks like there were many more monsters behind it. It was a whole pack of monstrous wolves. But the protagonist doesn't give up and goes out to slit the throats of all the wolves. Without much difficulty, he finishes them all off. Phew, let's see what you've got in store for me, you bards. As dawn breaks, we see the various bodies of the wolves scattered throughout the forest. The protagonist is up a tree. I couldn't sleep properly tonight. Well, I need to go quickly. In the morning, with the sun shining, we see the protagonist's parents hiding from the monsters. Oh dear, do you really think everything is all right? Kong couldn't get through to him. It doesn't look like there's a problem with the cell towers. The protagonist's father thinks, he's gone. It's all right, but is it really all right? Those orcs showed up yesterday and we managed to escape them somehow. Only they're monsters from a rank F dungeon. Can Kong really kill them all? Meanwhile, the protagonist is facing the orcs. Orcs are just a warm-up for me. He starts attacking the orc warriors, who are bosses and not just orcs in a rank F dungeon. Stay there and don't make any noise. His parents recognize that it's their son and are shocked. What's happened to him in the last few months? The protagonist takes on the orcs. They begin with a coordinated attack, one defending the other. The protagonist is forced to dodge the first attack, but he fights back by creating a magical orb of explosion and hits the orc in the face, which falls with its face all bruised and bleeding. A second orc tries to attack him from behind, and another attacks at the same time. The protagonist holds the blade, but it breaks the bone in his arm. Even so, he gets through the first orc's throat and uses the weight of his body to throw the orc over the other. He ends up breaking one with the weight of the other. The other orc warrior tries to get up, but the protagonist brutally defeats him, breaking the orc's teeth and shoving his hand into its mouth before using a magical blast, blowing the monster's head off. When he looks around, he sees a whole army of orcs, including normal orcs and warrior orcs. The protagonist focuses on one specific enemy, an orc bigger than all the others, an orc general. So you're the leader, are you? You're fucking ugly. The protagonist thinks, I wanted to save magic power to use regeneration, but the giant's strength and his muscle fibers are strengthened by magic power. He also activates his lion's roar. Let's see what you can do. In the next scene, the protagonist is being beaten up by the orc general, who is throwing punch after punch at his face. The protagonist can't fight back and is kicked by a wheel of orcs. This guy is playing with me. He continues to be punched and takes a knee to the stomach that knocks him to the ground. I don't know if my magical power has been completely drained, but I'm not regenerating anymore. I don't even know if I'll be able to revive. He tries to get up with the last of his strength. I can't stay here. I can't weaken while my family is there. The orc general falls for the provocation and they set off for another round of fighting. The protagonist hears a scream from his mother and sees several orcs climbing out of the window. No, 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 you can't go for that, you damned bastards. He is grabbed by some orcs, but manages to free himself. The next to grab him is the orc general, who sinks his head into the ground. The protagonist is in a desperate situation, trying to get up with the last of his strength. Shit, I can't weaken now. He tries to get out, but his eyes close. Then an attack of blades completely tears the orc general apart. The guild leader, whom we met earlier, appears, eliminating all the orcs in the area. She is accompanied by the entire guild, prepared for combat. Those orcs are huge in this place, aren't they? But thanks to this person who brought all the orcs together, it wasn't so bad, comments one of the guild members. She's fine. The person who was here before I arrived, says the guild leader. But one of the guild members mentions that he died. Okay, fine. Collect his body and get him out of here, the leader orders. However, when she goes to assess the state of the body, she realizes that it is no longer there. The protagonist appears elsewhere and opens his eyes. He was sleeping in a tree. The system explains the protagonist's ability to resurrect, a Z-rank ability. This ability makes the user resurrect after 24 hours of death. Description: returns to the base of death unless there is a specified location for the resurrection. Resurrection will take place in the last place you slept. Penalty: level drops by 1 and all your attributes are reduced by 50% for 24 hours. He remembers his parents and thinks, shit, it's been 24 hours since that. I need to get back immediately. He climbs down from the tree, feeling intense pain and his body very heavy. So that's the resurrection penalty. Still, he runs, hoping that they're all right. After 5 hours of running with an aching body, he sees his hometown, which has become a deserted ruin. After wandering aimlessly all night, he finds a military unit and manages to borrow a policeman's phone to contact Rayon. That's when he learns the news. His father has had both arms amputated and his mother is in a coma. Hearing this, he breaks his cell phone in frustration. 2 months pass, and a TV report talks about Gum's Guild, which helped the protagonist's parents. Gum's Guild has set out to hunt down the boss of the D-rank dungeon in the Haiji Plains. The report says, Hansen, the guild leader, mentions the new C-rank dungeon that has recently appeared. The protagonist is getting ready to go out again. His sister asks, are you going to the dungeon again? Yes, I will. You've already died 3 times this week alone. I'm fine. It's not your fault. Don't bear it alone. He slams the door in her face and goes downstairs. Rayon watches his brother, clearly affected by what has happened. In the next scene, the protagonist is facing giant ants called ants. There's already a group there celebrating having leveled up. The leader of the group, who thinks he's elite for having completed the tutorial up to level 5, is looking forward to reaching level 35 and joining Gum's Guild. Soon I'll be in Gum's Guild, he thinks. The protagonist runs in and passes the group, who warns them about the core in the room opposite and warns them to be careful. The group leader decides to follow the protagonist to kill the monsters and earn XP. In the next room, the protagonist activates a new skill, Secret of Decay, which increases all stats by 40% except mana. Description: the holder, a madman obsessed with combat, has dedicated his life to increasingly intense battles, destroying his own body. The swarms begin to surround the protagonist, who uses the cut and two halves skill to eliminate all the enemies with ease. Those who survived are finished off with a magical explosion. When the group arrives, they are shocked to see that the protagonist has killed all the enemies in the area. I got the Secret of Decay yesterday. It seems to power up very well with my regeneration. Since the decay skill makes my body decompose little by little, I'd have big problems if I didn't have this regeneration, thinks the protagonist. The leader of the group asks if the protagonist is all right, but he ignores him. Well, if there's nothing else here, I'll take the dungeon core and leave. Get out of my way, he says. The group asks him if he's going to take the magic crystals from the monsters, but the protagonist replies that no, they can leave as they please and that he's just going to leave. The group starts collecting the crystals, and the protagonist goes off muttering to himself that he doesn't need all that, just to become stronger. The leader of the group looks at him strangely, Later, in the dungeon, the group wonders who that guy was. The leader, indifferent, says that the important thing is that they got the crystals and will get money from them. That kind of person is best ignored. The important thing is that we got money at his expense, he says. A bald member of the group suggests that perhaps that man was the famous user who clears dungeons by himself. The leader sneers, "No way, this guy is just a rumor. If it were really him, he wouldn't be in an F-rank dungeon, but in an A-rank one." He thinks that clearing F-rank dungeons is the job of ordinary people. Suddenly, everyone receives a system message informing them that the main core of the dungeon has been removed and that the portal to the outside is about to open. The next scene shows several dead creatures and the protagonist standing over the corpse of the dungeon's boss, holding a skill book. The skill he has just obtained is Outer Bark of Anthrea of rank F. Description: a skill book for mastering the outer bark of F-rank ant has. When activated, it hardens your skin. The protagonist reflects on how the secret of the decadent and his physical regeneration are depleting his mana. He is using these skills intensively and needs to learn the new skill to improve. No matter how powerful a skill is, it's useless if it's not used at the right time. No matter how urgent the situation, I can't lose my composure, he thinks. Now I just need to become as strong as possible. At the exit of the dungeon, several people, including reporters, are present. The leader of the previous group is interviewed and points at the protagonist, saying that he was the one who killed the boss. As the protagonist is leaving, he is bombarded with camera flashes and questions from reporters. They're asking if he's the famous skill user who clears dungeons by himself. He replies that he's not interested in rumors and just wants to get out. A cameraman tries to approach, but the protagonist stares at him menacingly, causing the photographer to quickly apologize. The protagonist sighs and leaves, while the audience comments on him as a tough guy and a gangster. Later, in the parking lot, the protagonist goes to his car, a Bentley. He's irritated by the time he's wasted until someone else calls out to him. "Who are you now?" he asks. The person introduces themselves as someone from the Sand Skill User Alliance, offering support to the protagonist. She says that she doesn't need to give him an immediate answer and that he can contact her whenever he wants. An alliance of skill users is different from a guild. It's an organization focused on the individual development of each user, thinks the protagonist. No such organization has contacted me yet. Well, he said I could think about it. The protagonist devours 4 plates of ramen in a restaurant. A child watches him and tells his mother that he's a monster. After finishing, he reflects on his problem with magic. These days, almost all my mana is being used for the secret of the decadent and my regeneration. There's no mana left for anything. I can't fully use the outer bark of Anthrea I just got, not even my attack skills. It's so frustrating. He decides to look for items that might help and enters an auction app. There's nothing useful here, he thinks. I need something cheap that will increase 1 or 2 attributes. The next day, he finds some interesting information. In the city of Henan, there is a dungeon called Goblin Village. If you capture the shamans who appear there, there is a high probability that they will leave you a ring that increases your magic by 1 or 2 attributes. In addition, there is a chance that they will drop a 4-star ring. The boss of the dungeon is a large goblin shaman, and if defeated, will probably drop the best ring. This place was originally a hidden gem, where only people who knew about it gathered to get these items and make money, thinks the protagonist. Sounds like a good opportunity. Recently, some people have been occupying the land without permission and preventing others from entering, claiming that the land is now theirs. The government doesn't mind, as long as the dungeons aren't destroyed. The protagonist thinks, I just hope a big guild or something cleans this up soon. He arrives at the entrance to the dungeon and notices that there is no one around, thinking that he expected to find at least a few guards. However, he advances into the dungeon. Someone hears him coming and warns him that someone is entering. 3 people are standing guard in front of the dungeon. The first, who is smoking, comments that the protagonist's armor looks valuable and would make a lot of money if sold. The second says that it looks like the protagonist has a bonus, while the girl next to him reveals that she had a dream that something good was going to happen. They begin to tease the protagonist, saying that they belong to the bait guild and that he will have to pay a toll to enter. The protagonist responds indifferently, and when they threaten him, he acts quickly. In the blink of an eye, he throws the first guard away, who falls down foaming and with a pile attack. The others are shocked by the protagonist's speed. The first guard tries to attack with a sword, but the protagonist holds the blade in his hands and breaks it completely. He then throws the rest of the blade into the guard's stomach. I like people like you. You know why? Because I can need you without feeling any guilt, he says, stomping on the guard's head. The girl tries to use a magic blast, which hits the protagonist's back, but it doesn't even tickle. He stares at her calmly, while the girl trembles with fear, almost pissing herself. "Hey you," he says. "Thanks, I've just learned something from you." He takes her hand and uses a slightly more powerful blast of magic, causing her hand to burn. "Using magic up close like that burns me too," he thinks. The other members of the Bait Guild, on seeing the scene, become enraged and prepare to confront the protagonist. "So you want to solve it this way? I just needed a guide to the dungeon, but this seems to work as well," he comments. And prepare to confront the protagonist. "So you want to solve it this way? I just needed a guide to the dungeon, but this seems to work as well," he comments.